Now, I understand there's blame on both sides, that this may be part of the reason why the talks with the Prime Minister broke down. In your letter to the Prime Minister, you said, it's only right the government now wishes again to test the will of Parliament, and you said, we will carefully consider any proposals the government wishes to bring forward to break the Brexit deadlock. So can I test the question as to whether these talks have really broken down? If Theresa May comes to you now, picks up the phone, or says something which seems to go in the direction of what you want, the kind of Brexit you want, is your door now closed, or even at the 11th hour, is it still open?
No, we've concluded the talks. We think the words...
So no more talks?
No, there's no more talks. What I said in my letter was I think they'd reached a conclusion. We put forward our case to the government. We pressed them very hard on all the things that I've set out. Fundamentally, there's two problems. The government hasn't changed its red lines because it still wants the withdrawal agreement in its current form, and therefore we can't continue with it because they cannot deliver it either in Parliament.
Well, let's come.
The only thing that Parliament has agreed on is actually voting to take no deal off the table, and that has been achieved because Labour pushed it.
You'll have seen probably some briefing in the papers this morning, the Saturday papers, suggesting that Theresa May is going to come back to you with various offers, for instance, including a separate piece of legislation to entrench dynamic workers' rights as you want in law. Would you vote for that if it came back?
If a bill comes up which entrenches workers' rights in law, obviously we'd look at it very carefully. All that's been offered so far is to say they would accept the rights as there are from the European Union at the present time, and Parliament would have the opportunity to align itself with them in the future. Our proposal was for a dynamic relationship, which meant that anything that Europe does would be a floor from which an incoming Labour government could build.
If she brought back something like that and said, I'll put it into law, presumably that's what you want.
We would obviously look at it very carefully in Parliament, and we would obviously reserve our right to either amend it or oppose it, depending on what's in it. But I can't give it a blank check.
The same sort of question about staying in a customs union for goods during the lifetime of this Parliament, entrenched in law. So a future Tory leader would find it very, very hard to unpick it. One of your worries.
Well, that is not what's on offer. What's on offer is the backstop arrangement once the transition period is over. The backstop is, of course, a one-way exit from it, and our view was there should be legislation which would give us, after negotiation of course, a customs union with the EU, which a future Parliament could change if it wanted to.
Exactly.
But if you simply go into the next Parliament with the transition arrangements or the backstop, well, that isn't actually a legislative protection of any sort.